2%. That's how many kids playing organized soccer in America come from a household making less than $50,000 a year, not 2% of elite academies. 2% of everyone. Here's what that number did to one team's World Cup and what it's still doing to millions of kids who never got the chance to find out.
It really is a statistic that just forces you to completely rethink how talent is built in this country.
Welcome to this deep dive. We are unpacking the structural, economic, and, cultural barriers of the American youth soccer system today.
Yeah, especially following the U.S. men's national team's early exit from the 2026 World Cup.
Exactly. And we've got a massive stack of sources for this one. We're pulling reporting from Reuters, The Athletic, The Guardian, McKinsey, Blavity, and a ton of independent youth sports data.
Right, so whether you're a diehard fan or honestly just insanely curious about how a country of 340 million people struggles to build a talent pipeline, this deep dive is going to reveal the hidden economics of youth sports for you.
So, just to set the stage, July 7th, 2026, Seattle, Washington, the United States goes out of the World Cup in the round of 16.
Right.
They lose 4-1 to Belgium. And the immediate reaction is exactly what you would expect. You have pundits breaking down Mauricio Pochettino's tactics, fans debating substitutions, and everyone asking why this team, once again, hit that exact same ceiling.
Because, the U.S. hasn't reached a World Cup quarterfinal since 2002.
Right. So what does this all mean? Because this isn't just a story about losing a tournament. It's a systemic revelation.
Yeah, it really is. Because just 6 days later, the institution itself effectively admitted that this is a structural failure.
Which is rare, right? Usually after a high-profile defeat, executives get in front of the cameras and talk about, bad luck or the bounce of the ball.
Exactly. Or just needing minor tweaks. But Dan Helfrich, he's the chief operating officer of the U.S. Soccer Federation. He went on the record with Reuters and said something stunning.
What did he say?
His exact words were, "We need to fundamentally restructure the youth side of the sport in our country."
Wow. Fundamentally restructure.
Yeah.
That is a massive institutional confession. It reminds me of a Fortune 500 company publicly admitting that its entire global supply chain has been built for the wrong currency. It's an acknowledgement that the pipeline itself is broken.
And he was very specific about where the cracks are, too. Helfrich explicitly cited the need to lower costs, lower the barriers to participation, and increase access across this vast country where right now participation levels are wildly inconsistent from zip code to zip code.
And, to their credit, the Federation is trying to build some alignment.
Right.
They are currently building a centralized $50 million facility in Fayetteville, North Carolina. It's heavily funded by NFL owner Arthur Blank.
Yeah, that's a huge investment.
It is. And the general manager down there, Tom Norton, noted that this is essentially the first time the Federation has actually owned a blade of grass.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. But here's the reality we have to confront. A beautiful centralized facility in North Carolina doesn't magically fix the deeply fragmented, privatized landscape out in the local neighborhoods.
No.
The distance between a regular public park field and a World Cup stadium remains completely unbridgeable for most American kids.
Because that unbridgeable distance is paved entirely with invoices.
Right.
If we look at how the youth landscape operates globally, pro clubs in Europe or South America, they fund their own youth academies. Developing a player is a financial investment for the club.
They groom that talent to either play for the first team or be sold for a profit.
Exactly. But in the United States, that financial burden is flipped. The system relies almost entirely on suburban families paying out of pocket to keep the lights on.
The infamous pay-to-play model.
Yeah, pay-to-play.
Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, well, wait a minute, I pay $100 for my kid's rec league in the fall. Where is this massive financial wall you're talking about? We have to look at the actual pathway to the pros.
Right, the elite travel circuit.
Exactly. Leagues like the ECNL, the Elite Clubs National League, if you want college scouts or national team scouts to even know you exist, you have to play in these highly structured, heavily scouted tiers.
And the baseline average cost of youth sports in the U.S. is around $1,200 a year. But the elite tiers...
Oh, it's way more.
Yeah, those families are shelling out $10,000 to $20,000 annually per child.
It's unbelievable.
And it's crucial to understand the mechanics of why those costs are exploding. It's not just inflation or the cost of new cleats. Private equity firms have aggressively entered the youth sports space.
Which, that sounds bizarre on the surface. What does a Wall Street firm want with an under-12 soccer tournament in Ohio?
Well, they see a highly fragmented, emotional market that they can consolidate. They aren't buying the kids' local teams, they're buying the underlying infrastructure.
Like the facilities.
The regional tournament networks, the multi-field athletic complexes, and the software platforms you use to register your child or check the weekend schedule. Every time a kid signs up for a tournament, a private equity firm is skimming a profit margin. According to Tom Ferry at the Aspen Institute, travel and tournament fees have driven the overall cost of youth sports up 46% just since 2019.
46%? That's just staggering.
It is. And just to impartially note how massive this has become, lawmakers across the political spectrum are taking notice.
Right, like Senator Chris Murphy.
Yeah, he recently introduced the Let Kids Play Act, which aims to eliminate private equity from youth sports altogether. He argues we need lower-cost, recreational-level experiences for children.
And we aren't here to endorse any specific legislation, but when Congress is stepping in to investigate your local travel team's registration fees, you have a structural economic crisis.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to the human element of this data, because those numbers are abstract until you look at who they are leaving behind.
Right.
Landon Donovan is one of the most decorated players in the history of the U.S. men's national team. And his recent testimony on the late run is incredibly revealing.
Yeah, he brought up that exact statistic from our opening hook. Only 2% of kids playing organized soccer in America come from households making under $50,000.
Which is a staggering filter when you consider the median household income in this country.
It is. And Donovan shared his own reality to illustrate it. He noted that his single mother made $34,000 a year while raising 3 kids.
Wow.
She couldn't afford $4,000 for elite club soccer. As he put it, she couldn't even pay a $400 fee.
Just $400.
Right. He stated very clearly that he would have had zero chance to play organized soccer. He only made it because someone else stepped in and paid his way.
That's incredible.
His conclusion was brutally honest. He asked, how do you create good players by doing that? You can't.
Just imagine how many Landon Donovans have been permanently filtered out of the system simply because they didn't have a wealthy benefactor to cover a $400 registration fee.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. We are looking at a system that effectively filters for wealth before it ever has a chance to filter for talent.
That is the exact friction point. But, you know, we should address the counterargument here, because whenever we discuss pay to play, some critics point out that the U.S. actually pours billions of dollars into sports infrastructure.
Okay, let's unpack this. Is it really just about money?
Well, Coach David Garcia, who has a lot of experience observing youth development in Spain, took to social media to argue that the real deficit in America isn't financial resources. He argues it's culture and obsession.
What does he mean by a cultural deficit?
He's talking about informal access and ambient culture. In Europe or South America, soccer is just in the air.
Right.
A kid can walk out of their apartment, find a local plaza, and jump into a pickup game with a tennis ball if they have to. They are constantly touching the ball, experimenting, and playing without adult supervision.
That's not nothing. That kind of environment is huge.
It is. But in the United States, because of our sprawling suburban geography and our car-centric culture, a kid's ability to play is almost entirely dependent on their parents' schedules.
Yeah, if your parents can't drive you to a structured, permitted grass field at 5:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, you just don't play. You're left doing drills by yourself in a backyard.
Exactly. And experts like Lex Shalat have pointed out that this lack of informal access, it really isolates players.
I hear that. Informal, unstructured play is incredibly valuable for developing creativity, but I want to test this culture argument against Donovan's 2% metric.
Okay.
Let's say an American kid in a lower-income neighborhood has all the passion in the world, they are completely obsessed, they play in the local public park every single day. That obsession does not magically pay a $400 travel fee.
No, it doesn't.
Cost is a wall, culture is a different wall. The system built both.
That's a great way to put it.
You can have all the ambient culture in the world, you can be kicking a ball against a brick wall for 10 hours a day, but organized development in America, the actual pipeline to the national team, it runs strictly through a paywall.
You're exactly right. In a system where development is monetized, a child's obsession is entirely secondary to their access.
Yeah.
And if we want to see what a sports ecosystem looks like when it removes both the financial wall and the intense commercialized pressure of travel sports, we need to look overseas.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I want you to look at Norway. Norway has a population of 5.6 million people. To put that in perspective, that is smaller than the Houston metropolitan area.
Yet Norway not only reached the quarterfinals of this 2026 World Cup, outperforming a U.S. nation of 340 million billion, they consistently dominate global sports across the board.
It's crazy.
We are talking about producing absolute superstars. Erling Haaland in soccer, Casper Ruud in tennis, Victor Hovland in golf, Jakob Ingebrigtsen in track and field.
Wait, statistically, how is that mathematically happening? How does a country the size of a single American metro area produce that kind of cross-sport global dominance?
It comes down to a radical national governing document called Children's Rights in Sports.
Okay, what does that actually do?
The mechanics of their system are almost incomprehensible to an American sports parent. In Norway, there is no scorekeeping allowed in organized games until children are 13 years old.
Wait, really? No scorekeeping until 13?
None. There are no travel teams for young kids. There are no national championships for preteens.
Wow.
And financially, parents typically spend less than $1,000 a year total on their child's sports.
I know American parents who would absolutely lose their minds at that concept. We're so culturally conditioned to believe that if an 8-year-old isn't learning how to crush the opponent and hoist a massive plastic trophy, they are falling irreparably behind.
Oh, absolutely. But look at the causality of what Norway is actually doing. By removing the intense pressure, the grueling travel, and the immense financial cost, Norway keeps everyone in the athletic pool until puberty.
Ah, so the pool is just wider for longer.
Exactly. In the U.S., if you are small for your age at 9 years old, or your parents simply can't afford the elite travel team, you get filtered out. You get discouraged and you quit.
Right.
In Norway, because it's cheap and pressure-free, that 9-year-old keeps playing for fun. And by the time they are 16, they might hit a massive growth spurt and turn into an absolute world beater.
That makes total sense.
They mathematically increase their odds of finding superstars because they don't accidentally throw away their late bloomers.
It's the difference between farming a cash crop and planting an orchard.
Ooh, I like that.
If you farm a cash crop, you extract all the value right now, you maximize the yield this season, but you completely deplete the soil. By treating 9-year-olds like mini professionals, by monetizing them through a multi-billion-dollar youth sports tourism industry of hotel blocks and tournament fees, we are extracting cash but ruining the soil of our national talent pool.
We really are.
We are burning kids out or pricing them out before they even hit high school.
And the data proves your point. The result of Norway's patient development first system is a 93% youth sports participation rate.
93%.
Yeah, that is 40 percentage points higher than the United States.
Which brings us to a startling contradiction right here at home. Soccer is currently the third most popular sport in the U.S. overall.
Right.
It has a 10% fan share, effectively beating baseball. Millions of people are watching. The fandom is massive and growing. Yet youth participation for ages 6 to 17 is actually declining.
It's dropping.
It has dropped to 7.5%. How can a sport be exploding in cultural popularity while actively bleeding child participants?
It points directly back to the socioeconomic filtering we've been discussing. Former U.S. men's national team goalkeeper Tim Howard addressed this head-on recently.
What did she say?
He stated plainly that the pay-to-play model socioeconomically outcasts so much of this country.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
When the cost of entry keeps rising to feed the private equity margins and the elite travel circuit, you lose your grassroots player base, even as the television audience for the professional game grows.
And what's truly tragic is how this completely isolates incredibly vibrant communities within our own borders.
Definitely.
Dr. Jermaine Scott, who studies football and politics in the African diaspora, points out that Black soccer culture is growing incredibly fast in the U.S.
Yes.
You see it everywhere in fashion, in independent media, in streaming personalities playing FIFA online. The African diaspora is central to global soccer culture.
Absolutely.
But there is this massive disconnect. The culture is driving the popularity of the sport, but those same kids are structurally locked out of the manicured turf fields where the scouts actually sit.
This raises an important question, doesn't it? The enthusiasm for the sport in America is universal, but the access is strictly gated.
It's totally gated.
The infrastructure hasn't figured out how to harness that incredible cultural momentum because the physical and financial barriers to play remain firmly in place.
So we arrive at this concept of the 2 miles. When we look at all these sources, the real story isn't the 4-1 scoreline against Belgium.
No.
The team is already home. The real story is the unmoving 2-mile distance between a local kid sitting on a public park bench in a World Cup host city and the billion-dollar stadium they are permanently priced out of entering.
Yeah, the tournament came to their backyard, but the game itself is as far away as it has ever been.
And realistically, that distance isn't going to be closed overnight.
No way. Even if Dan Helfrich and the U.S. Soccer Federation successfully align the system, even if that $50 million facility in Fayetteville acts as a catalyst, and even if we somehow made youth soccer entirely free tomorrow morning, you simply cannot rush development.
Which brings me to a final, somewhat provocative thought to leave you with.
Okay.
FIFA's head of global football development, Arsene Wenger, has spoken extensively about the timeline of talent identification.
Right.
The core idea is that fixing a broken system demands an immense amount of education and, above all, patience. France, for example, opened its first centralized national academies back in 1973.
All right.
They didn't win a European championship until 1984.
Wow. Over a decade.
That is more than a decade of quiet, consistent work, identifying and nurturing talent in the background before anyone ever lifted a trophy.
Yeah.
So when we look at the kids priced out today, we aren't just losing games right now. By failing to rebuild the system today, we are currently actively losing the players of 2036.
That's a heavy thought.
Here's what we established today. The U.S. went home in the round of 16. 6 days later, its own soccer federation admitted the system needs to be rebuilt. 2% of kids playing the sport come from families making under $50,000, and that number, not the scoreline, is the real story of this tournament.
Next week, our next deep dive. The World Cup is over. The cameras are packing up. We're not. We go back to check every promise made in June. The audit begins.
The World Cup ends this month. The cameras will leave, the fan zones will come down, the flags will be packed away. But the kids we've been talking about, they will still be there. On the same benches, in the same parks, waiting for the same opportunities that the tournament never delivered. We are still going to be here too. And the fact that you are the world, that matters in ways we are not able to fully measure.
2 things. Subscribe so the next deep dive finds you before you have to look for it. And share this deep dive with someone who lives in a World Cup host city. Someone who has been celebrating this tournament without asking who it left behind.
This is the deep dive. The kids America left out of the game,